My name is Chris Rubio, and I wanted to welcome you to the first episode of the Rubio Method. On today's show, we're going to talk about hoofs. We are going to talk about walking in sandals on ice. We're going to talk about uncharted land, where you live in your heart, in your mind. We're going to have a great interview with the fabulous Nick Umble, and then we're going to talk about the bottom line. All of that and more on today's The Rubio Method. Big T, let it rain, Daddy. All right, welcome back to the first fantastic episode of the Rubio Method. I want to bring on my co-host, Nick Monaghan. Monaghan, I got a question for you. Have you ever had a pedicure?
It was one of the greatest. I went with my mother-in-law and my father-in-law, and I would go again any day of the week.
Okay, so I just went and had one today. I feel like I deserved a little bit of pampering. I work hard, so I wanted to go get my hoofs kind of massaged and cleaned up and all that good stuff. So I walk in, and I am the only dude in there, and immediately some older ladies start clapping. And I don't know if that's the protocol or what, but it kind of made me feel happy, yet a little odd. Did they clap for you when you went in there or
I
not?
got no ovation, so they must have been excited when they saw you walk through the door.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, so it must be maybe a Northwest thing or just a me thing. We'll find out later. I plan on going back. So then I go and I sit down, and they get these little robotic chairs that have massages and all that. And they put my little hoofs in the water with all this blue and all. I don't know what's happening there, but I just did it. And she immediately picks up one of my hoofs and starts looking at it. And don't get me wrong, my feet are not fantastic. There's whole issues. We can do a couple episodes, and maybe we will. But she picks it up, and she's not a large woman. She's tiny, petite, if you will. And she's got my hoof in her little tiny paw, and she's inspecting it like I'm some sort of animal. And it made me feel a little uncomfortable, kind of like, you see the gorillas in the zoo, and they're like picking, like, I don't know, what, the ticks off each other or whatever. Did they do that to you, or was that just a me thing as well?
Rubio, I hate to break it to you. That's just a you thing, man. You're a specimen.
Okay, well, we're going to move on. We're going to get to the meat of this episode. But before we do that, make sure you guys always go to the RubioMethod.com, iHeartRadio, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, NGBN TV, Roku, and Apple Podcasts. Share it with the entire world out there. Big T, let it rain. Focus up. All right, welcome back to the Rubio Method. Monaghan, quick question for you, my man. Have I ever told you about my story of me with sandals running on my front porch when it was cold outside?
Oh my gosh, never. Let me hear it.
Okay, so as you know, I live in northern Idaho right now. I live in a fantastic city called Lewiston, Idaho. It's about 5 hours north of Boise, about 3 hours south of Canada, about 5 hours east of Seattle. It is phenomenal, but don't ever visit. You don't want to visit here. People are too nice. You wouldn't like it, Monaghan. So anyway, I've lived here for about 12 to 15 years, and it's obviously a lot different from where I grew up. I grew up in Los Angeles, California, actually a city called Covina. It's about 20 miles east of Los Angeles, 20 miles, let's say, north of Disneyland. Raised by my single mom. That's a whole separate issue. We'll do a couple episodes on that. I'm sure we'll get to those as well. Ended up going to UCLA, humble brag, no big deal. Starting long snapper there back when they were very, very good. They've had a little slump since I've been gone. I'm not going to say it's because of me leaving, but you can put two and two together. You don't need to be Goodwill Hunting to figure this one out with the addition and subtraction. So anyway, I moved up here to northern Idaho for a beautiful woman, my wife, Jolie. And one day she's going to work. I didn't have a car at the time, didn't need one. She exits the garage. I go downstairs, give her a kiss goodbye because I'm a hero. I walk upstairs. I see her pulling out of the driveway, kind of a 20-yard driveway. I see her pulling out, and I see her cell phone, okay, right on.
Wait, Rubio, what kind of phone was it? You got to let the people know.
Oh, it was it was just, I think it was, I want to say it was at the time of the flip phones. On a and it was very bizarre. Let me cut to you a sub story real quick. I was talking about how nice people are in Idaho. Speaking of cell phones, the first time I ever went into the grocery store, I get to the front of the line and I see this nice certificate with the Idaho State symbol, and it says, when you get to the front of the line, please discontinue all calls. And I just moved up from California. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not one of those guys that's on the phone in public regardless. That's just too rude for me, even me. And I get to the front, and this typical cashier type person, I say, is this a state law? She goes, what law? And I go, we're here. Get off the cell phone. She goes, no. And I said, oh. She kind of lowers her glasses. She goes, but if you get on the phone when I'm talking to you, you're an asshole. And immediately I just started roaring. I said, okay, no problem, honey. I got it. And I took my groceries and went on my way. Anyway, back to my original story. I got sidetracked there, but it was a good story regardless. So I get her cell phone, the flip phone or whatever. I think it might have been one of those.
Oh, man, I had a red one of those.
Yeah, hers was gray. So immediately I see she's pulling out, and I have probably 8 yards from the kitchen all the way to the front door. Open up the front door, and I'm going to sprint out to go deliver my wife's cell phone and be the hero yet again. So immediately, I'm in my standard Los Angeles, California gear. Los Angeles, California gear, for everyone that doesn't know, it's basically just sandals, shorts, a t-shirt, and maybe a sweatshirt. That's just what you wear year-round, because in California, there's no seasons. It's just hot. That's all it is. Maybe one day a year you get rain. Up in Idaho, it gets cold. Like right now outside, I think it's like 24 degrees. That's, oh my God, cold. So it was one of those nights where it was super, super cold, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I'd been living here for a while, but I just had not figured out cold equals ice equals do not run. So I open the door. I'm in my sandals, my shorts. I think I had a sweatshirt on, just kind of casual, like I'm, right now. I open the door and I start to sprint. And I'm going as fast as I can. And I'm a big man, so this is not a very, very fast sprint. We're talking maybe 6:0, 7:0, 40. But in my mind, I am flying. I've got like the cartoon streaks behind me. I'm going. I open the door. I take one step and whoom, I launch. And I mean, in my head, I probably went 7 feet in the air and probably 9 feet out. In all reality, probably a foot and a half in the air and probably 3 feet out. But I know I went far enough to where I cleared 3 steps on the way down the porch. And as I did this, I'm in midair. It's one of those where you can see yourself going. And boom, I land straight on my back. Like this. And immediately I think to myself, okay, number one, did anyone see me? No. Next, am I hurt? Do one of these old man kind of twerk things like that? No, I'm good. And then immediately I was just humiliated. And that's when I thought to myself, I'm on uncharted land. This is just one of those things in life. I'm on uncharted land. And that's exactly where this first show is going to go, is uncharted land. Because right now, as you know, I'm in, say, my mid-40s. This uncharted land is what we're going with the men's health, the men's mental health. And that's where I'm going to bring you on.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, first off, hilarious story of you sliding into third there. But I remember the first day you reached out and you said, hey, Monaghan, we've got this idea for a show. I remember you kind of talking about it. Big part of who I am in my journey is a big part of mental health. I have my own mental health journey. I go to counseling on a biweekly basis, and you had reached out, and I thought that was an absolute no-brainer that I hop on the show here.
And so Monaghan is going to be the quote-unquote expert. He's not a doctor. Let's establish that. Okay,
I play when
I'm. And I'm going to be just your average Joe. I don't know what the hell's happening, but I'm learning. And our guests are going to help us by telling us what they've gone through, the ups, the downs, the ins, the outs. And they're going to be learning along with us all as we get through it. As we wrap up this segment, I want to remind you, you can listen and watch on the Rubio Method on your favorite podcast station, iHeartRadio, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple Podcasts, Apple TV, and of course, the RubioMethod.com. Big T, let it rain.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see.
D-E-P-R.
Mental illness doesn't show up on a scale.
Bipolar?
Sorting out a mental health concern takes professional diagnosis and treatment.
Anxiety. I thought so.
If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support.
This is what too much sounds like. This is what stress feels like. And this is what help feels like. If you've lost a job, worry about your next meal, or have trouble making it through the day, we can help. Text STRESS to 211211 to find a solution.
Focus. Focus up. All right, welcome back to the Rubio Method. Most of you are probably wondering, how did this show come about? What happened? All right, so I'm approached by NGBN TV. They talk to me and they say, hey, Rubio, we've been following you. We know that you're a very good storyteller. You can communicate. You enjoy being on camera. And you have the uncanny ability to make people learn something without them understanding they're learning something. I said, okay, that's, I guess, a compliment. We're going to kind of go with it. But we want you to do the show on men's health or men's mental health, pretty much both of them. So immediately when I get told to try to do something, I'm going to take as much of it in as possible. I'm reading books, I'm watching videos, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm taking as much info in as possible. I'm basically drinking from a fire hose. And the main word I keep hearing, seeing, reading, all of that is communication, communication, communication. And as the word popped up for the 8 billionth time, boom, I had an epiphany in the back of my head. And it said, wait a second, Nick Monaghan is a buddy of yours, and he every once in a while, about every 3 to 4 months, he'll put something out on social media, says, hey guys, if you have any issues or you just want to talk, give me a jingle. And so I text Monaghan, and Monaghan is someone that I've known for probably 15, 16 years. As if you don't know, I'm a private football coach. Monaghan went through my camps, and he's a very, very boisterous human being. He was always one of my favorites. Don't tell him I told you so. But he was one of those kids at camps that had an overwhelming personality. I always said he's like a newborn Labrador puppy, just full of energy. He's one of the only athletes that I've ever had to say, Monaghan, you gotta shut up. Just stop talking, man. I can't do it anymore. And so we've been communicating ever since then for probably the last 15, 16 years. He's gone through college, he's married, he's got a kid on the way, all that good stuff. So we know a lot about each other. And the best part about Monaghan and I is that we do not agree on, let's say out of 10 things, we probably agree on 2. And we have had some heated arguments where we've called each other and we've said some things to each other, but it's always been a mutual friendship and love of, okay, you can agree on this, I'm going to agree on that, but let's kind of go through this and kind of explain to one another. And like I said, that mutual love and respect aspect of our lives. So I contact Monaghan. Monaghan, give me a jingle. He calls me back and I said, Monaghan, am I off base here? Or do you always put out a line that says, hey, if you have some communication problems or you want to communicate, give me a jingle? And Monaghan says,
yeah, absolutely. I would love to be a part of this. Yeah, when you reached out, Rubio, you reached out and said, hey, I'm looking to do this kind of show. I need, kind of a counterpart or a partner in this. You're into mental health, that you have your own journey? And I said, yes, absolutely. And Bell Let's Talk Day is one of the days that I love reaching out to people and saying, hey, if you need someone to talk to, you're going through it, it's okay to not be okay. So I jumped at the opportunity.
And the thing that was so great is I was basically just contacting Monaghan to be, if I'm Johnny Carson, he's my Ed McMahon, he's going to be the co-host. And then we started getting into the conversation about men's health and men's mental health. And then I learned, okay, Monaghan has gone through some stuff. He's going to talk about his journey along the way on this show with the guests and to all the viewers and myself. And that's where I was like, okay, this is going to work, and it's going to work really, really well. So Monaghan is going to be your expert. He's not a doctor, read fine print, okay, but he's one of the people that's gone through it. He's going to be able to help us all out. And I'm going to be your average Joe, where I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'm going through that sweet spot right now. I'm saying mid-40s, crawling up there a little bit faster, and I'm experiencing all these things as well. So it's my journey, Monaghan's journey, your journey. We're all going to get on this train together and kind of figure out what the hell's happening in our lives.
Yeah, and especially in this, you had mentioned it, is this uncharted land that we're heading into, and we're definitely gonna go through that uncharted land together, and definitely want to be, Rubio, as you mentioned, you are fantastic at teaching people without them knowing that they're learning, and I definitely want to continue just to be a supplement, be a complementary to that, to help people who, hey, a lot of them don't even know we're going through it. until we hear, hey, you're not alone, and this is normal. So I'm super excited for the show and super excited to be here with you.
Absolutely. And as always, you can always communicate with Monaghan and myself. Just go to therubiomethod.com. Make sure you like, share everything. We have our own YouTube channel as well. Make sure you listen on your favorite podcast, whether it's iHeartRadio, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, Roku, Apple Podcasts, and of course, ngbn.tv. Big T, let it rain.
This is what too much sounds like. This is what stress feels like. And this is what help feels like. If you've lost a job, worry about your next meal, or have trouble making it through the day, we can help. Text STRESS to 211211 to find a solution.
Here's to the straggly ones. The first ones. But hey, I look good with this ones. The black, brown, red, and gray ones. The itchy ones. The ones grown by Dad. The ones grown for Dad. The I nearly didn't do it this year ones. And the absolutely filthy ones. They all raise awareness, raise funds, start conversations, and save lives. Because whatever you grow will save a bro. Learn more at Movember.com.
Focus up. All right, welcome back to the Rubio Method. I'm very excited. We have our first ever interview. Of course, this is the first show, so in case of point, you got the first ever interview. We have the fantastic Nick Umble. Umble, I really want to appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on the first episode of the Rubio Method. Please, I'm not going to do you service enough. Tell us who you are.
Nick Umble, I just run through a quick one. I grew up in Iowa on a farm. I joined the Army at 18. I joined Special Forces at like 25 years old. 16 years as a Green Beret. Then I retired. On my last year and a half in the Army, I met you through the long snapping community. And you undertook that, teaching me how to long snap. And then I went and played a year of NAIA college football. And then I took 2 years, kind of got lazy. And then about 2.5 years ago, I started training to become a competitive strongman. I'm probably about a year and a half out from getting my pro card in strongman.
Okay, you've lived 5 lives in however old you are. Let's just jump into some real quick hitter questions. Ready? Just 3 questions for you real quick. And I don't want you to think about them. I just want you to answer them as quick as possible. Number 1, you ready? What is the best burger you've ever had, and where was it?
Oh, at the Ram. It's a brewery in the Pacific Northwest. And they used to have one called the Peanut Butter Burger.
Yes.
I eat peanut butter on every burger now.
Oh, my. Is it on the burger or on the bun?
On the bun.
And
it's put mayonnaise. It's like put mayonnaise on a burger. You just put peanut butter instead.
Crunchy or creamy?
Crunchy. Who eats creamy peanut butter?
Just checking. All right. Number 2. This is going to be weird because of your job. Do you pack perfectly, or overpack underwear on trips?
Perfectly. I don't want to take it more than I have to.
Okay, just checking, because I always pack for some reason like I'm going to have diarrhea 37 times per day for some reason. Monaghan, I'm assuming you're the same way. Number 3, if a distant relative gave you a ridiculous amount of money, name one outlandish thing you would buy for yourself.
Oh, I'd go put up a 10,000 square foot barn-dominium with an awesome gym in the garage.
Good answer. You flew through those. I'm not surprised. All right, Umble, once again, thank you for coming out. I'm very excited. You are obviously built differently. You're not a normal person. Have you been this way all along, or did you kind of grow into this machine that you are?
Oh, I grew into it, man. I was an emotional kid. I grew into this. The Army was the best thing I could have done.
So, did you know you were going to go into the Army right out of the gate? I mean, like 18, you turn 18, you're going, or was it kind of, does someone have to slap you around a little bit to get there? Because everyone's an emotional person, especially going through teens. But
I joined when I was 17 years old. My parents had to sign a paper saying, "Hey, man, you can go in the Army." By my sophomore year in high school, I knew where I was going.
But why? Why did you know? How did you know?
I had a couple of friends I went to high school with, and they used to have I don't remember the name of it now. They used to have a thing where you could go to basic training between your senior year, and then come back, and then after you graduate high school, go to AIT or your individual training for your job. And so I had a bunch of buddies go and do that, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." And I didn't want to go to college. I hated school. So I was like, oh, this is the next best thing. So that's what I did.
Now, Umble, when you speak, remember you're speaking to a civilian, and I've joked around with you before. Whenever you do your little letters and times, you have to go normal mode because I don't know what AIT means. I don't know what 1157 whatever army times you use. So what was AIT? Is that what you said?
So it's just job training, right? So you go to basic training, and the next thing you know is you're trained for whatever job you picked in the military.
Okay,
So
so
you
you're
would go
going
to
into basic training. Is basic training like exactly what I'm seeing in the movies? Is it that bad? I mean, you're 17 years old. You're not even a full adult. Was it?
well,
Oh my gosh.
I was 18 at the time. I signed up when I was 18 and went into the delayed entry program for a year, and then I went in. I turned 18 in June, and I got in September of '96.
Was it the hardest thing you've ever done?
At the time, yeah, but when I look back, no, it's probably one of the easier things I've done.
That was one of the easier things. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you now?
43. I'll be 44 in June.
How many countries have you visited, or am I even allowed to ask?
30 plus.
30 plus. How many countries did you visit before you were 30?
Oh, probably 20.
Okay, so for those who don't know, because you can't really see you, you fill out a double X shirt quite well. You are not a small human being. You're what, 6'3", 6'4", 270?
Oh no, man, I'm 6'4", 335 now.
Wait, what?
Oh, tank.
Yeah, I'm 6'4", 335.
335. That's 3 spins around the old wheel.
Yep.
Okay, so you were not that size when you went into the army.
No. When I got in the army, I was 6'4", 195 pounds.
Okay, so what? Let's go back to the army here. What motivates you? Because people that are in the army, the armed forces, the military, they're a whole separate breed. I have the utmost respect for them. I tell them all the time. What motivated you, number one, to get off your butt and do it? What motivated you through the times where it was you're running through the mud, you're doing this, some guy's yelling at you, there's bullets whizzing by? What motivates Nick Umble back then as opposed to now?
I don't know. When I got in, I just I guess I just want to be a part of something. And then as it grew and I guess I don't really remember those first 4 years. It's kind of a whiz, man, from 96 to 2000. And then when I got to group in '02, the first special forces group at Fort Lewis, it was about being on a team. And it was an awesome experience, man. That's 16 years of my life. I don't know, you just get up every morning because you got 9 or 10 or 11 guys. It's a 12-man team, so you got 11 guys with you, and it goes back to that whole like. And in your world, everyone knows Bill Belichick's famous saying is like, "Hey, if everyone does their job, everything will be good to go." Like if 11 guys on a football field, if every dude does their job, you cannot fail. So it comes back to that. If there's 12 guys on an ODA, an Operational Detachment Alpha, which is an SF
Thank
team,
you.
it goes back to that. If every guy does their job, right, everything's successful. Now, I mean,
Okay.
obviously there's times when things aren't successful, and I've been in some of those times, but for the most part, you get up every morning because you want to be there. It's something that you want to do.
Okay, so you want to be there, but there's a little difference. I know you correlated to football, and that's fantastic because that's my wheelhouse and Monaghan's as well, some of it. But on the football field, if 11 guys don't do their job, no one dies. Okay, freedom is not lost. How do you balance that when you're in the army, 18, 19, 20, 30? I don't care, it doesn't matter. But yes, I have to watch for my group, but I have to cover myself first. Or is it not that way? Or is it just a common denominator that everyone knows we're in this together, man? It's one of those, if it doesn't
Yeah,
work, we die.
yeah, it's a common bond. You literally spend. It's funny, man. You spend more time with your team and when you're an SF guy than you ever spend with your wife. It's like you're married to 11 other dudes and you come home and wash your clothes at the house that you drop your stuff and sleep in a bed. You're that close to those dudes. I mean, you know ins and outs. You know what makes those guys tick. It's it is it is like the bond you build on a football team, but 10 times greater because people die
Yeah.
in that in that organization, that line of work. So it
So
becomes, and then
you
it's just a
obviously,
drive.
you've been through some wild things. We talked off camera and things like that. What guides you through? Like what when it's hitting the fan, so to speak? What caused you to get through it? Was there a higher power? Was it just your mentality? Was it your thought? Was it your heart? Was it your mind? What guided you through to the end process?
Like I'm a huge believer in God, and I think that
Yeah.
having a religion helps you out a lot. But my toughest times, believe it or not, were not being in firefights in a foreign country or being deployed. My toughest times were being back home. And it's crazy to sound, but you train so hard and so much and so long to get to a combat zone or on a trip that it becomes second nature to you, right? Like that, it's mind over matter at that point. You're not going through the motions. You have to think, but a lot of that stuff is second nature to you. Like firing a gun, shoot, move, and communicate is a second nature. What becomes hard is when you come home, especially if you're married, you've been gone for 6 months, you've done your own thing and been exposed to an extraordinary amount of stuff. And the person that you're married to or dating is running her daily life, but has learned to live without you being there. So now you go home and you try to integrate to live with that person again. And that's the hardest point. Like I suffered through depression and things more when I was home than I was ever gone. Like I wanted to spend almost my entire career deployed. Like there were times when I was like, I'll do a back-to-back deployment. Like going home was just not. It's a very different deal. Guys don't. You don't really hear about guys struggling with depression overseas. It's when they come home and they have to deal with, I mean, you go through extraordinary things and then you come back home and everything's normal. Is that for you guys, for the civilian population? Now you have to integrate into that. And so what you've been exposed to, you come home with it. This doesn't go away. So like my biggest problem was coming home.
Well, and it's got to be very similar to, the celebrity or the athlete when they finally retire, they get injured and, oh, I'm no longer the greatest quarterback or the greatest actress or actor. And I've got to just go to the local 7-Eleven and get a Slurpee. And it's just weird to just throw on the quote unquote normal outfit and go. I mean, how did you bounce out of that depression?
I think I probably went through like 2 or 3 bouts of it, man. The first time I went and got counseling, a head check is what we called it. And that was probably like 2005 after my first rotation. I went through a real bad divorce then as well. And then I would say the next time I went to a selection for a special missing unit and I didn't make it. And that was the first time I had really failed at something in the Army. And that really affected me because I put a lot of time to go to that selection course. So, and that was kind of like, I don't know, you just motivate to get, I don't know, I just self-motivate myself. Like, I'm 43 years old. There's no reason I should be out deadlifting 500-600 pounds and squatting 500-600 pounds. It's most guys my age are not doing that. I just have this, I need to keep going. It's never enough. And so that's my motivation to keep it going.
Okay, but where did you get that motivation, Umble? I mean, did you have mommy and daddy, aunt, uncle, a certain coach that gave you that from the start? Or was it, because you're a machine in my eyes, you're built. Who built you, or did you build yourself?
I think it was a combination of my mom and dad. They've been married to be 50 years this November. So it was a combination of my parents along with just going through the trials of being in the Army. Like that's a huge learning experience, right? So most kids go to college, and I went to college at 38 years old and played football, man. I know what happens at 8 o'clock class. No one shows up. Everyone's drunk, hungover, they don't care, And in the Army at 18 years old, you might be drunk and hungover, but you're getting up running PT, right? Because if you don't, some platoon sergeant's going to be in your ass. So you got to be some sort of self-motivated and understand where you need to be at what time. You can miss a class in college and it doesn't affect anybody. Miss PT formation in the morning, physical training formation in the morning, somebody's going to be in your ass. And then it comes in sort of punishment. Like, is it written up, or does somebody smoke your bags by just making you all these exercises? Or do they bring in another, what we call in the Army, Article 15, and now they start taking money and time away from you. So, yeah, man, you grow up a real quick, man. You get in the Army.
Yeah, you'd have to be a self-motivated human being, or you're not going to make it. I mean, it's not an issue of when you get kicked out, or if you get kicked out. It's when you get kicked out, because they're not going to mommy and daddy you. I can't imagine that the higher ups, they're going to, okay, come on, Nick, let's do it, Nicky, let's do it, buddy. They're going to be like, see you later, or get going.
And then when you move into the special operations realm, it's even more responsible, right? Like now you're responsible for a ton more. And most guys that are going in there, when I got into group, I got into 24 is when I showed up the first special forces group. But when I was 24 years old. Most of the guys
24 years old. I wasn't sure if you're doing some sort of codes again.
Most of the guys on my team were in their mid to late 30s. right? And that was the thing when I got into group. Like most people in special forces were in their mid 30s, and I was some 24-year-old kid coming in. But by the time I left group in 2016 and retired, the average age of a dude I think it dropped from like 35 to like 27.
Why is that?
Well, they started a whole lot of different programs. I mean, the war took a lot of stuff. A lot of guys, you know, you get burned out. You can only go so many 6-month rotations at a time before you're just like, okay, man, I'm done. And then there's guys that get out, guys that retire, and then, you know, so the age of an SF guy started to get younger and younger because of some of the programs the Army did.
Okay. What advice do you have? You've gone through 3 bouts of depression. You're a Green Beret. You've been all over the world, literally. You've been through hell and back. What advice do you have for people that are basically 40, 50, 60, 70, men or women, to help them on their journey? Because like when this whole show started, I was talking to Monaghan, I'm reading up on it, basically drinking through a fire hose. And I don't know what the hell's happening, but it's kind of, I'm tiptoeing into it and saying, okay, this is something I got to kind of figure out here. What advice do you have, Mike? With you obviously have a lot of expertise in a lot of different fields.
So, my whole thing was become comfortable being uncomfortable.
Ooh,
Right?
say it again.
Become comfortable being uncomfortable.
I like
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So like, you know, you want to sleep in your bed every night. Well, you learn real quick to learn that a sleeping bag on the ground needs to become comfortable for you. So getting out of bed in the morning is like, you know, when people are having depression, it's hard, man. You don't want to do anything, but you got to become comfortable being uncomfortable, and being uncomfortable getting yourself out of bed, going to the gym. Like you hear people make excuses, and I've been married to Jen 5-6 years now, and she's like, you have literally eliminated every excuse to go to a gym because you have built an entire monstrosity of a strongman gym in your garage, right? She's like, most people are like, oh, I don't want to drive to the gym, or oh, it's too far to go, or oh, the gym's closed. You have no excuse. It's out your garage door, right? You have to walk 10 feet and you're in a gym. That's and you've seen it, Rubio. It's a world-class gym.
Well, and that it brings me to my next question: is what's next for Nick Umble? I mean, you're kind of leaning into it right now. Tell everyone what you're doing now. Your age, you're 6'4", 335, which is a large man. And tell what have you gotten into, and how did you even embark on this? What the hell?
So 2 years ago, before COVID hit, I was like, I don't want to go to a gym. I hate going to commercial gyms. I never had to do that in the Army. We had our own gym for our unit, and it was a world-class gym. It was awesome. And so I was like, Jen, we're going to buy a barbell, 400 pounds in weight, and a rack that folds into the wall. And the next thing you know, I'd used all my weight. And I'm like hiring a coach in June of 2020. And I worked with him for about a year. And at one point, he's like, what do you want to do? What's your end state here? I'm like, let's be the baddest man on the planet. Like, I'm never going to win 5 World's Strongest Man. Like Brian Shaw's a 4-time winner. Like, I'm never going to be at that level. However, I could be at the level to be a qualifier. I could get my pro card. So I start training, and I did one competition in February in Philly and got 8th. And then I did a competition in Delaware for Delaware Strongest Man and got 4th. And then I did a competition in October of, these were all in 21. So October of 21, and I won that one. And I have a competition in 2.5 weeks that if I can place top 3, I can go to nationals in the end of June, which at nationals, if you place in the top 5, you get invited to a pro-am. In a pro-am, if you place in the top 3, you can potentially get your pro card there. So I've been doing this about 2 years, about 2 years since I started with 400 pounds and a barbell and a rack. And now, like I said, I just put in a Sornex Apex rack, and I got stones and logs, and I just put a brand new 1-inch Sornex flooring in my gym, and so we're going after it, man. I'm shooting for.
So I got to ask the question. I think I know the answer. Obviously, would you say lifting weights and doing all this stuff and throwing around Toyota Tercels and Camrys, that's helped you out with your any possible bouts of depression?
Yeah, man. It's correct. It has, and it also helps that I have like the most amazing wife in the world that supports my endeavors, right? Like, and you know it. I mean, you met Jen. We were dating when I started the whole long snapping thing, right? And then we got married, and she followed me, and then We moved out to Illinois, and then we left Illinois and moved out here. And she's got an awesome job now, and I got a good job, and I'm doing this strongman thing. So we mutually support each other, and I think that helps it out as well, man. Family's a big thing, and having a wife that's pretty understanding. I mean, yesterday she spent 10 hours with me carting in 5,000 pounds worth of steel to put this rack together. So we both woke up this morning bruised and battered, and like I didn't work out yesterday. I'm not going to work out today, just because I told my coach, I'm like, hey man, I'm old, man. This is going to take me a day and a half to recover from. And so tomorrow I'll go back to it and hit it again.
And you'll start it right up again. Umble,
Oh, yeah.
this was absolutely phenomenal, man. You were everything I expected and even more. Monaghan, I'm going to wrap this segment up. You guys always know that you can contact us all at therubiomethod.com. Listen to us on your favorite podcast, whether it's iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and of course, NGBN.TV. Umble, once again, thank you so much for your time. You're a true patriot, and I'm so glad that you were able to be the first guest on the Rubio Method.
Hey, appreciate it, man. I think, hey, Nick, it's been good. It's been cool, man. Thanks, guys.
Big T, let it rain.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go. Never gonna let
This is what too much sounds like. This is what stress feels like. And this is what help feels like. If you've lost a job, worry about your next meal, or have trouble making it through the day, we can help. Text STRESS to 211211 to find a solution.
Focus. Focus up. All right, welcome back to the Rubio Method. Monaghan, just had our first guest, Nick Umble. What do you think about that machine, that absolute just unit?
Dude, well, first off, I'm absolutely blown away. His just humility, and then just head down mentality of going through what it looks like to be in the military, what it looks like to come out of the military. The craziest thing that even hit me was the fact that he said that it's harder to not be deployed than to be deployed.
That was insane. That was just so intense. But I could grasp what he was saying, but it was still just like you because you watch all these movies and all that good stuff, and you see, okay, you're over wherever you're at, and all hell's breaking loose, and to come back to wherever your home base is, and to think about, yes, physically probably easier, but mentality wise so much more different. And that I agree with you on that one. That one hit hard to me. It was very, very unique comment that he had.
Yeah, and because he even mentioned it too, the fact that most people get depressed when they're home, not when they're away. So, and it was really cool because, something that is so important that I think especially men need to know is, like, here's Umble, who's the American warrior. Like, we think of him as the #1 American badass. But dude, like, us men, no matter what our position or identity, we're not immune to any type of mental health or just any type of going through it,
Yeah, I mean, he 3 bouts of depression, and he's basically not even a human. I mean, can you imagine just your average Joe living life, doing what you're doing, going through 9-to-5 job, having married kids, do whatever, maybe a divorce. And this guy is an absolute machine. He's the Terminator, and he's going through 3 bouts. I mean, it opened your eyes. It opened my eyes a lot. I'm assuming your eyes as well.
Yeah, and the fact that he talks about that team mentality, he kind of said it without saying it, but like, fellas, dude, guys, we can't do this alone. And so I thought that was really cool too. So those were my major takeaways, and I was just so impressed by him. And dude, he could probably lift you and I both up. And
I know he can.
500 yards.
All right, so Monaghan, let's break into our last segment. The last segment of the show is called The Bottom Line. Anyone that knows me knows I'm an extremely bottom line guy. It's either black or it's white. That's why the logo behind me, you see, it is black and white. There's a purpose for that. It gets me into a lot of trouble a lot of times with my wife because she'll be telling me a story or something, and immediately it's what they say with men all the time: "Are you listening? Are you hearing? Are you hearing? Are you listening?" I'm not sure which one it is, but I always say in my head, I'm always saying, just bottom line it. What do you want me to solve the problem, or do you want me to listen? And it usually gets me into a lot of trouble. So bottom line, this is going to be the last segment's called The Bottom Line. Here's what we should learn today. We talked about Uncharted Land. We did an interview with Nick Umble. He's been on Uncharted Land since he was basically 17 and a half, 18 years old. I was on Uncharted Land with my sandals, running as fast as I could to be the hero to deliver my wife's Razor little flip phone, and boom, I fell. So what could I have done differently? 3 things I could have done differently. Number 1, it's okay to just tiptoe through life. I should have been a lot more careful and tiptoed through life. Number 2, it would have been okay for me to understand that I don't know everything. And that's okay. It's okay not to know everything. I say it all the time. In Northern Idaho, we'll just say the men here are a little bit more manly, and they know tools and axes and trees and all that good stuff on hunting. And you'd be shocked, well, maybe you wouldn't be shocked, how many times they make fun of me because I say, I got nothing. They'll say, grab me this, and but I don't know what you're even talking about. And they make fun of me all the time. But now it's to the point where my wife says, don't even bother grabbing a tool because you don't know what you're doing. You're going to end up screwing it up, as it costs us double. So number 2, it's okay to admit you don't know something. And number 3, the big one, how we got the show going, Monaghan, is communicate. It's okay to talk to someone. As ignorant as I would have looked, it would have been okay to think, I don't know what's going on. Maybe I should ask my wife, or, do what I got to do. Wait until she got to work and called her and said, hey, can I run on ice with sandals? Or, maybe put 2 and 2 together. And those are the 3 big takeaways. You want to tiptoe, communicate with someone, and maybe just admit that you don't know everything and you have the ability to learn. Monaghan, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think those are all fantastic. And lean on your brothers, man. That's what I got.
Well, Monaghan, we did it, my man. First episode down of the Rubio Method. I'm so pumped. I think this is going to be fantastic. I don't think I know. I want smooth sailing. I really appreciate your time. Obviously, we appreciate the great Nick Umble's time. Remember, if you have any questions, you want to just talk to Monaghan or myself, please go to therubiomethod.com. You can watch us you can watch and listen to us on all your favorite podcasts: iHeartRadio, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, Apple Podcasts, Roku, and of course, NGBN TV. That's a wrap. Big T. Let it rain.